is an honor for me to be able to introduce Jan this afternoon. I've known Jan for several years, a very compassionate lady and very knowledgeable in the fields that she's taken interest in. She's a consultant in holistic health care for animals, an animal advocate, and an author and editor of books, articles, and other projects dealing with animal rights, wellness, and welfare, personal growth and wellness, and environmental and spiritual issues. For more than 20 years, she has been a consultant in holistic healthcare for animals and a passionate advocate for animal rights and welfare. She holds a certificate in companion animal homeopathy from the British Institute of Homeopathy, and offers private consultations and group workshops in animal health care. Since the mid-1980s, she has written and worked toward a better relationship between humans and other species. In 2006 and 2007, she was on the steering committee of citizens against a Ukiah slaughterhouse, a coalition of local residents who successfully resisted a proposal to build a slaughterhouse in the Ukiah Valley.
Yay.
In 2007, with Ron Epstein, she co-founded the CARE to bring greater awareness about animals, who they are, and how we treat them to our community. In 2009, both she and Ron were nominated for the American Red Cross Sonoma and Mendocino Counties Real Heroes Award in the animal category. Jan has appeared as a speaker at a variety of conferences and workshops and has been a featured guest on numerous radio programs. She is the author of 2 books. And are there going to be books for sale today? So the books are on display back in the corner, and Jan is going to be giving 10% of the proceeds to any of the book sales to the CARE organization. So if you're interested in looking at those, they will be available after her talk back over on the table. So the books are the Complete Holistic Dog Book, Home Health Care for our canine companions, and that's published by 10 Speed Press and published in 2003. Co-authored with Katie Sumner's Listen to the Silence, Lessons from Trees and Other Masters, and that's from Tenacity Press, published in 2007. And the column Beyond Body, Mind, and Spirit in the Defense of Animals newsletter, or e-newsletter. Jan lives in the hills above Ukiah, where she shares her home with 2 horses, a dog, a very large dog, by the way, as well as coyotes, ravens, rattlesnakes, bears, and countless other wise and wild ones. So join me in welcoming Jan Allegretti.
Thank you, Scott. And this is Tila Marie. I called her Tila at first, and I just felt like she was so beautiful, she needed more beautiful name to go with her. So this is Tila Marie, and she is vegan. She is a rescue girl. I found her through Rocky Mountain Great Dane Rescue. When we met, she was skin and bones. She weighed a good 20 pounds less than she does now. She was very sick. She had an upper respiratory infection, ear infections, eye infections. She had just had puppies. She had huge calluses on her heels and her elbows. Off the table, sweetie. But she was just full of joy and love and happiness. So she is. I have some pictures that I'm going to share with you too about how she looked then. But she is very happily vegan. She and I share a green smoothie most mornings for our breakfast with kale and chard and spinach and fruit and berries and carrots and ginger, and she just loves it. So she obviously is able to do just well without meat or animal products in her diet. She does very well. So I think, a lot of people really question whether whether a dog or a cat can be healthy on a vegan diet. And I think she kind of makes a pretty clear statement about that for herself, for all of the animals, that it is possible for that to work very well. I started exploring vegan diet with my own animals. This is Tashina. She was my first Dane. I have a real thing for Great Danes. Fortunately, there are breed-specific rescue groups, so we can support rescue and still have the breeds that we really enjoy. And Tashina had one of the things that I have found, one of the things that first pushed me to start exploring meat-free diets for dogs and cats were health problems that they had. Tashina was terribly hypersensitive. She would react anytime there was a change in energy, like a change in the light. It could be as simple as clouds going back and forth in front of the sun, or somebody waving a flashlight around at night. And she would shake, and she would tremble, and she would pant. It got worse and worse over the years, as years went by. It was almost like a mild seizure that she would have. And when I started to make the connection that it was a little bit like a seizure, I tried taking her off of animal products. And it made a huge difference. The problem didn't go away, but it was much better because of it. Just by getting animal products out of the diet. Patches was the first cat that I tried putting on she was on a vegetarian diet. And she too had some hypersensitivity issues. She was terribly allergic to lots of things. That was many years ago, and I was eating packaged food, and she got to where she would run around and itch and scratch every time she would eat. And she would actually sit and stare at her food dish and sort of cry and meow, and she wanted to eat, but she knew it was going to make her uncomfortable. So I put her on a fresh food vegetarian diet, and the problems went away. Just went away. She was fine. Maisie was her housemate. Maisie was fine. She was strong, powerful. She was one of those cats that she could have survived on anything probably, and told everybody what for in spite of it. And so she did fine. She was on vegetarian diet for a long time because Patches was, but she was fine. Savannah was Tila's predecessor. I met Savannah at the county shelter when she was 5 years old. She was in terrible shape. She was skinny and her coat was rough. She was terribly depressed. She was heartbroken. She'd been abandoned in some pretty rough circumstances, I was able to find out. And a 5-year-old Great Dane, the life expectancy for a Dane isn't usually very long. They stay generally 7 to 10 years. So I was a little skeptical about adopting a 5-year-old Great Dane, but I thought, I could see she was just a wonderful spirit. And I thought, if I get a year with her, then I'll probably be lucky at that. She lived 2 weeks past her 13th birthday. So she did really well. She was vegetarian at first and ultimately vegan. And Tess is an elderly retired horse. She, of course, is vegan, but didn't want to leave her out.
Right.
But you know what? Look at the muscles you can make without eating meat on those horses. Pretty strong. So this is Tila the day we met. I don't know if you can see that quite as well as I'd like, but you can see here. I don't know if you can see this picture a little bit better. She was skin and bones. Her coat was rough. Very skinny. She looked terrible. Some people asked me in those early months if she was a brindle because her coat was all brown and splotchy and nasty. She had been in the shelter for 3 weeks. She'd been with the rescue group for 3 weeks when I met her. They'd been feeding her Canada dog food, meat-based dog food. I drove to Colorado to pick her up. So I left her, I continued to feed her that in case there was any digestive problem by switching her diet. I didn't want it to happen in the car 2,000 miles from home. So I continued to feed her Canada food all the way home. And she wasn't a real enthusiastic eater. She'd kind of eat, but it wasn't a big deal. The first night at home, I made her a bowl of rice and lentils and broccoli, and she dove into it, gobbled it up. She loved it. So she was happy to be vegan from day one. And there she is, 7 months after. She looked pretty nearly as good as she does now. Really glossy and shiny and just blossomed. Didn't take long for the problems to go away.
How old is she?
I think she's almost 6. We guessed she was about 2.5 when I met her, and that was in August of 2007. So we decided that February 14th is a good day to celebrate her birthday. So we're going to have a 6th birthday party on Valentine's Day. So she's trying to make sure she got to everybody. She likes to make sure she doesn't leave anybody out. Taylor, do you want to try? So how does it make sense? People always say, oh, but they're carnivores. You know, wolves don't eat vegetarian, and tigers don't eat vegetarian. And that's true. Although they do eat some plant material, but they're different. You know, the dogs and cats that we have in our homes now, they're a long way from the wolves and tigers that they originated from. We've domesticated them so much. We've bred them to specialize, to be specialized, to be able to live within our homes and be companions for us, that we've really changed them quite a bit. You look at the wolves that they started from, and then where we've come to now, you know, this is not really the same animal. They have a similar origin, but they're not really the same. And similarly, we have the wild cats generations ago, and then we have our kittens. They've changed quite a bit. And so in many ways they've adapted to our lifestyle and our lives. And I think that they're a lot of the ways that we've changed them, we've opened the door for them to accommodate in some other ways too. The other side of it is that the foods that we're feeding them now are not the same as the wild wolves and cats ate. You know, the wild animals are eating prey that lives off the land and roams free, and we've changed the cows and the chickens that we feed as much as we've changed they're as different from the wild prey as the dogs and cats are from the lions and the wolves. So to think that by feeding what's in the packaged food that we get at the store, and this meat-based diet, is more natural for our puppies and kittens at home, there's so much has changed that it's not really a good analogy.